Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero podcast, the show where I cover the least in the best way possible. I'm your host, Jason Wells. We're going to start this episode off with a little bit of apology. As you guys may have heard through my voice last week, it was very frustrating having to re-record that divisional preview multiple times, and the end result was not very good. My internet connection has not been great. My roommate decided to change the internet just because he got a better deal, and the internet has suffered because of that. Is what it is. Quality on this week's episode, much, much better. And this week's episode, we got the NFC South and AFC South divisional preview. And joining me is Moub. Moub, haven't had him back on a while, but as the resident Panthers fan, who else but him to bring on? And yeah, other than that, we'll go over the NFL weekly update as always, starting with the NFL Hall of Fame game, the first preseason game of the year. I'm just realizing I don't even have the final score listed down to. It was between the Browns and the Jets. I went to bed at halftime. I think there was a weather delay, or no, not even a weather delay. I think the lights went out at the stadium. I'm very happy I didn't stay up to watch it. Final score of the Hall of Fame game, Browns 21, Jets 16. And let's talk about that game for a bit. So I was watching the pre-coverage, seeing them talk about the Hall of Famers this year. And then all of a sudden, it's Please Rise for the singing of our national anthem. And who else is it? It's DeMarcus Ware. Yeah, that DeMarcus Ware, the now Hall of Famer, the Cowboys and Broncos legend, up there singing the national anthem. And I'll be honest, wasn't great. I give him a shit ton of credit for going up there and singing that, though. Was it great? No. Was it bad? No, it wasn't terrible. He can definitely carry a tune. I'd give it a 6 out of 10, but just nothing I would ever think to see DeMarcus Ware doing. Big ups for him for actually getting up there and doing it. It's something a lot of people would not be comfortable with. Can you imagine singing in front of, I don't know how many thousands of people were at that game. Let's just say 30,000 people watching the Hall of Fame game, 20,000 people maybe. I don't know how small that stadium is. Crazy. So just a crazy way to start off the game. And then none of the starters were obviously in. It was Zach Wilson versus Kellen Mond to start the game, and that opening drive from Zach Wilson was typical Zach Wilson. Missed a couple throws, scrambled out, had a potential break for the first down, and then slipped and fell. And then that second drive, he unleashed an absolute nuke. I don't know who was the receiver on the play. He made a hell of a catch, but that's what you get from the Zach Wilson. That is the arm talent that we all know is there. But again, he can toss a ball as far as they come in the NFL. It's just the rest of it is not there. That was the big wow play from him. He was pulled after that. A few other just notes from that game. One of the Jets' lone starters on offense was Mekhi Becton, obviously battling back from injuries the last 2 seasons. He looked pretty good. He looked pretty good in pass protection. He did hobble off at one point, went quickly back into the game. I hope he can stay healthy. He is a force when healthy. But yeah, he looked good in his snaps. He played a decent amount of the game. I want to say at least a full quarter, maybe a little bit more. But he looked good. And on the Browns side, anyways, Kellen Mond will not be the backup. Dorian Thompson-Robinson should be the backup for Watson going into the season. He was a guy coming out of UCLA. He had an arm. He is an athlete. He's just raw. He's a very raw player, but he showed up. He looked good. He looked way better than Kellen Mond. I expect him to take that job from Kellen Mond. Because that's the thing. Kellen Mond's not even the backup. I'm just realizing this now. Josh Dobbs is the backup for Cleveland right now. He didn't even play. So, yeah, Kellen Mond is getting cut. DTR is 100% going to be that third-string guy for the Browns. Browns' potential future at quarterback because the Predator the nasty man. He is going to fail miserably this season, and I cannot wait. Okay, let's get into some news and notes. I completely missed in the last episode talking about that Rodgers pay cut, but Rodgers took a pay cut. I think instead of the $50 million, he's going down to like $37.5 million. It frees up cap if they want to make a move towards the deadline to really make that Super Bowl push. There could be some good guys out there. Maybe the Raiders trade Devontae Adams. The one thing is, though, the Jets don't own either of their first or second round picks right now because it's all conditional based off if Aaron Rodgers plays. So they can't really move those picks. So that's a big issue for them trying to attract anyone. Next offseason, it would obviously be different. But if you're like me and you think that Rodgers is starting the decline of his career, I don't think it really matters what you can get an aging quarterback. But yeah, so that's the Rodgers pay cut. A couple signings now. Logan Wilson, the Bengals linebacker, signed a 4-year, $37.5 million deal. Honestly, that is an absolute steal for the Bengals. Logan Wilson is one of the better middle linebackers in the league right now. He forms a great duo with Jermaine Pratt for the Bengals front seven. Great player, great number to get him at. Big for the Bengals, who are looking to obviously give money to their big three guys in Burrow, Chase, and Higgins. Getting Logan Wilson at, I think it's nine something a year. Good number. Cam Jordan, longtime Saint for life, looking like he will finish as a Saint. Signed a 2-year, $27.5 million extension. Very solid at that number. Cameron Jordan is one of those guys who might be in the Hall of Fame. I think he might get in eventually. He does have the sack numbers. He's always been very, very productive his entire career. Saints keep a good one for them. And speaking of the Saints, running back Alvin Kamara has been suspended for 3 games for his incident at the 2022 Pro Bowl. If you don't remember what happened, basically Alvin Kamara's group of friends, I mean, you shouldn't even call a group of guys who beat up one guy your friends, but his friends, his crew that he hangs out with, they just beat the shit out of some fan in one of the Vegas casinos. Whether or not Alvin Kamara was actually involved, I don't think he will. I think he was there. I don't think he actually took part in the beating. But nonetheless, you only get 3 games for having your crew beat up one person. It's a 3-game suspension in the NFL. Brutal. But what it means for the Saints were looking at Kareem Hunt. They brought him in for a visit. They did not sign him. So right now it is Jamal Williams' backfield. Not great. I think the Saints will bring in someone else at running back because there's still a lot of good guys on the running back market. Sticking in the NFC South, Devin White still wants to be the highest paid linebacker. If you're keeping track, Roquan Smith is currently the highest paid linebacker, and I think he's around $20 million. And that's like exceeds everybody. Devin White still thinks it's his rookie season. He still thinks it's 2020 and the Bucs are Super Bowl champions. That's when he was good. He has not performed to that level or even near to that level since that season. He's been solid. He's been fine. He's still a superb talent, but he just does not have all of it right now. He needs to be much, much better. Like, he doesn't even deserve top 10 linebacker money right now. Asking for being the highest paid, absolutely delusional. He'll figure it out, though, hopefully. All right, let's get into a couple of signings. Yannick Ngakoue, the free agent, where has he been? He's been started off in Jacksonville, then he was a Colt, then he was a Raider for a bit, then he was a Raven. Now he is he's on the Bears. He's honestly the Bears' best edge rusher. Talking in that NFC North preview last year and talking about the Bears, I was saying that the Bears need help on their front seven. The secondary has some pieces. The front seven needs some work. Yannick Ngakoue definitely past his prime, but still a productive edge rusher for them. Like, he won't get double-digit sacks, but he'll definitely be close to it, hopefully. Speaking of another pass rusher, Panthers signed Justin Houston. Will be playing opposite Brian Burns, which is nice. I mean, Justin Houston has just been productive forever, almost. Longtime Chief, then he went to the Colts, then he went to the Ravens. Really following that Yannick Ngakoue. I mean, he's been Yannick Ngakoue's teammate a couple times, but the Panthers get a good one, especially this late in the process. Great vet addition. And former Cleveland Browns safety John Johnson is back home with the LA Rams. The Rams need some help on that defense. John Johnson definitely is an improvement over who they had at safety. Oh, I'm trying to remember the names on that depth chart when I was talking about it. I think like Russ Yeast is a guy that might have been starting for them at safety, or like Kobe Durant. Not great people. So good that the Rams at least got one of their guys back, someone who's familiar with the system that they run. New Atlanta Falcon Jeff Okudah was carted off at practice. However, it was not as serious as people thought initially. He's expected to be back early on in the season. It's very good news for the Falcons, who are relying on Okudah to take that step that people thought at his draft projection. We'll talk about more in the NFC South preview with him, but he needs to have a big year for the Falcons, for this Falcons defense and secondary to hopefully be what it could be, because I sneakily like the Falcons defense, and we'll talk about that more in a bit. We'll keep going. Couple more suspensions. Chiefs edge rusher Charles Omenihu and Seahawks wide receiver Dwayne Eskridge both suspended 6 games for domestic violence issues. Just shitty people doing shitty things. Only getting 6 games. Not great. If we're talking about just from a pure football perspective, the Chiefs losing Omenihu, I think they were relying him to take on what Frank Clark was doing last year. Now I don't know who their other edge rush guy is. Obviously they have George Karlaftis, but they were hoping that Omenihu would be big for them early on in the season. He will not be there. And Dwayne Eskridge for Seattle. They drafted Jackson Smith-Njigba to take his role in the slot. This might be the beginning of the end of the career for Dwayne Eskridge. The first official NFL depth charts came out today. Nothing really notable except for one. The Buccaneers put out their depth chart and had the quarterback, QB1, listed as Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. There was a little literal or in the depth chart. It was Baker Mayfield, QB1, and then or Kyle Trask in the QB2 slot. But obviously they're still undecided. When you're picking between ass and cheeks, it's kind of what you get. It won't be great for the Bucs. And Moub and I did an excellent job of explaining why it is not looking good for the Bucs. And lastly, we got some few smaller signings from around the league. Lions have signed Teddy Bridgewater to be their backup quarterback, obviously with Hendon Hooker still coming back from his knee injury that he suffered in college. This gives them a reliable backup behind Jared Goff. Someone who's, again, solid, won't elevate, but he won't sink the ship, hopefully. Kenyon Drake has signed with the Colts after Jonathan Taylor kind of holding out, missing practices, and with the injury of Zach Moss, the Colts needed to bring someone in. Kenyon Drake is that guy. The Eagles have signed Miles Jack and Zach Cunningham, giving them some linebacker depth. Both Jack and Cunningham were both high-round picks at one point. I think they were both day 2 picks. I don't know if they were... I think Miles Jack might have snuck into the back end of round 1. I'm trying to remember. Either way, good linebacker depth for the Eagles. I'm just interested where Nakobe Dean is going to play. And I think Nakobe Dean is a player that a lot of us enjoyed. We thought he was very versatile, could cover any move all over the field, very instinctual. And I don't know if he's getting lost in the shuffle here, but he's going to have to fight for some reps. The Vikings have signed former Patriots first-round pick, N'Keal Harry, to their squad. N'Keal Harry does nothing in terms of catching the ball. He is a good run blocker, though. Interested to see what he can do. A little bit of a nothing signing, but it is a name. He is a former first-round pick. Speaking of former Patriots, Trey Flowers has signed back with the Patriots after spending last year in Miami. He only played 5% of the snaps for Miami. I don't know if he got hurt. I'm trying to remember. Either way, it's a guy who knows how to, his best years were in that Patriot system. It's good depth. That's all you can say. It's a good depth piece. The Dolphins, after looking in the defensive tackle market, trying to find some more depth, they signed veteran Deshaun Hand, who previously played for the Lions. Again, just solid depth. We already have our interior starting three with Wilkins, Seiler, and Davis. This just gives someone who can come in and take some snaps when those boys need a rest. And last signing, long-time tight end, just tight end in general, Mercedes Lewis has signed with the Bears. He was originally a first-round pick in 2006. He will be going into his 13th NFL season. Am I doing that? Oh, no, I'm way off. He will be going into his... Oh my God, why am I so bad at math? We go 10, that brings us to 2016, 7 years. 17th season for Mercedes Lewis. That was astonishingly bad how... It's been a day. What can I say? But yeah, good for him for still being in the league. That's good vet presence for them. He's still a good run blocker. I'll be interested to see how much he gets on the field for them. And we'll finish it off with a couple more lighthearted stories, or more stories that about the NFL more than anything. We got an Urban Meyer story. Even though he did not finish a full season as the Jags head coach, stories keep coming out about why he is the worst head coach in NFL history. So there was a story of Jags safety Andrew Wingard. They were holding a players meeting, and it came up that Wingard said it was tough, that, you know, it's a rookie head coach and it's a rookie quarterback, and it's hard for things to meld in the first with two guys who are new on the job. Somehow that got back to Urban, and he called Wingard and basically said, why are you calling me a rookie head coach? How disrespectful. How could you? If you weren't you, I would cut you right now. So Urban Meyer is a sociopath. I think that has been proven already. But the man's just insane. He is a rookie head coach. He was great in college, but he has never been an NFL coach, and he flamed out terribly. Awful. And basically how the story ended was Wingard had to basically suck back up. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry, coach. You're so great. Whoa, I didn't mean to call you a rookie head coach. Blah, blah, blah. And then obviously he didn't get cut, and Urban Meyer then left the team, or got fired in whatever week he did. Terrible fucking coach. Ugh. And he kicked Josh Lambo. He kicked his kicker. And last story on the day, this literally just happened today, but Colin Cowherd put out a list of quarterbacks who can't win a Super Bowl, and on this list, he explicitly named on air Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins, who tragically passed away, I think, 16 months ago. Brutal death, but yeah, just... I don't know who it was. Was it the intern putting together this list? Because what the list was it supposed to be, I think, high round quarterbacks drafted since 2013, and just a big list of them, of guys that can't. Because the whole list was Paxton Lynch, Johnny Manziel, EJ Manuel, Dwayne Haskins. Either way, there was a bunch of guys like that on the list who don't even play in the NFL anymore and haven't for a while. Blake Bortles, who is notably retired. Obviously, they can't win a Super Bowl. So the list got passed through, and first of all, there was also a error on it was quarterbacks who can win a Super Bowl, and listed all those guys. Cowherd said on air that obviously it was supposed to be can't, but it was just a big list of quarterbacks who haven't been in the NFL, and no one penned through and took out all the guys who aren't even in the NFL anymore. Just lazy. Like, you have so many people there producing and editing, and things like that shouldn't slip through the crack when you're that big of a sports media personality. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for Colin Cowherd. This is why I'm not a fan of his, because I feel like he's just always lazy. They always put out the least amount of effort possible, and just disrespecting Dwayne Haskins. It's a bad look. This is why I am not a fan of Colin Cowherd, and I never will be. Okay, that is it for the NFL Weekly Update. Let's get into the divisional breakdowns with Moub. Division breakdown time. Joining me this week, we have NFC South Panthers fan Moub. Moub, you haven't been on the show in a while, but I am happy to have you here to break down.
Yeah, I'm also very happy to be back on. Like, I've been moving and stuff like that during the draft season, so I wasn't really, didn't have the setup properly and everything to be on and do the show. So I'm glad that all's been sorted out now. So yeah, I'm glad to talk some South football, Southern football, AFC, NFC, and let's get it started.
Okay, we'll start off with the AFC. We'll start with the second worst team last year, the Houston Texans, 3-11 to end their 2022 season. Notable additions for this offseason: Robert Woods, G. Ward, Sheldon Rankins, Shaq Griffin, Dalton Schultz, and Devin Singletary. For the notable losses, Agonia Okoronkwo and Brandon Cooks. Obviously, that doesn't include their draft classes, because that was the Texans. They seemingly have to be a few. Drafted Will Anderson as well. He will hopefully be that building block for D'Amico Ryans, who is also another huge ad for them. I'm enjoying where the Texans are going right now. I think that they're a young team and they have building blocks, and I think they're trending up for right now anyways.
Yeah, I agree. See, for all the clowning we did this time last year, they're taking the right steps in the right direction. Like you said, really good young coaching staff. D'Amico Ryans should, light a charge in that defense, that really young defense. I like their pieces. I really like their draft, getting a cornerstone quarterback, cornerstone defensive player. Put that alongside Derek Stingley from last year, and I really like the moves. Now, will they be competitive this year? I don't think so, but I don't think it's really about this year or maybe even next year. I think they're finally rebuilding for the foreseeable future, next 3 to 4 or 5 years, which is something they needed to do for the last couple of years now. So we're glad to see them finally take those steps in the right direction.
Yeah, the Texans, again, we've been saying it, they're building in the right direction. This is truly year one to see if they will be contending still on Stroud's rookie contract. And what helps all young quarterbacks is a great offensive line. And the Texans kind of have that right now. I don't know when it happened, but the Texans have a sneaky good offensive line. Obviously, Laramie Tunsil, one of the best left tackles in football. Kenyon Green, young guard. They drafted Juice Scruggs out of Penn State, so he'll be center. Shaq Mason, one of the most solid, dependable O-line in the league right now. And right tackle Titus Howard, who I think we all clowned at one point, but he has solidly developed into a very good young tackle for them. But other than that, that is their building block on offense, and they got that run game with Amy Pierce. The team is just very, very young, especially at the wide receivers. And that's kind of one of my first knocks on them, is they are still a very, very young team. A lot of these guys have to play their ass off. Like John Mechie, Nico Collins, they just drafted Tank Dell. One of those guys should step up to be the number one guy, but I just don't know who it's going to be. And Stroud's going to have to figure that out for himself.
Yeah, he's definitely going to have to figure it out. They have a real young, inexperienced receiving core. But I mean, I think I'd much rather at this point have a great offensive line and then figure out the receiving pieces along the way. You don't
Yeah.
want your
Yeah.
young quarterback get beat up, and year 3, year 4, he's already starting to feel the effects of about a whole line. So yeah, well, at least they have that building block up front, and they can just rely on the run game and play action for now, and then slowly but surely add to the permanent in the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, even though they did add Will Anderson in the draft, that's kind of their only major addition, hoping that Will Anderson is that dude. Garrett Stingley is the guy that they hope that they drafted. There's a lot of holes on this defense, and I think that will be the downfall of them. I think D'Amico Ryans will do a good job, but you look at the defense, like Will Anderson, Garrett Stingley, Jared defense. Everyone else is a solid NFL player, but like there's no other great young guys, to me, in my opinion. But sorry.
Oh no, I just said I agree.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of talked about the Texans enough. I think we're both they're an ascending team. They're not there yet. Where do you have their floor and ceiling for this season?
I would say their floor is probably about 4 wins. I mean, things could go really bad. Again, the offense leaves much to be desired. Their defense as well. So again, they're rebuilding. So I'd say the floor is about 4 wins, and I would tap their ceiling out at about 7. I think that for that to happen, everything would need to go according to plan. Like they would need CJ Stroud to be who, like many like scouts thought that he would be, right? Like being in the top 3 pick in the draft. You always want those guys to turn into franchise players and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, if everything's according to plan, if Will Anderson's a stud, if John Mechie could make himself a real reliable receiver in the NFL, and Damian Pierce can continue to run the ball like a madman, then yeah, I see them being from that 7-win to 4-win kind of tier.
Yeah. I think that's kind of pretty close to what I have their floor. I didn't do like specific win totals with my floor and ceiling, but the floor is like top 10 pick. I don't know if they'll be bad enough to be in those top 5 teams, but with that being said, I don't think there's a lot of teams that, other than maybe the Cardinals, and then we'll talk about the Bucks coming up, that are truly bad. So I think top 10 pick, I think they'll be a little bit worse or a little bit better top 5. Ceiling anyway, kind of like you. I have around 500, whether that be 9-8, 8-9, 7-10, somewhere around that mark. Is if things do well for them, if Stroud is that guy, if the run game gets going behind that offensive line, if one of the receivers play like takes that step up, separates some other guys, if Will Anderson comes in and is that dude immediately, got pieces. It's a weak division too. But I think around 500 is kind of their limit. I don't think they'll push for the playoffs or even the division. And with that, I guess let's move over to the Indianapolis Colts. I thought the Colts were going to be a playoff team last year, bringing in Matt Ryan. I was like, oh, run game, their offensive line's still pretty good. Watch out for the defense. That all fell apart immediately almost. Matt Ryan gets benched. Mike Wright gets fired. Saturday gets hired. One win. They blow some amazing losses to the Vikings. Now our stage 1 of a rebuild. Frank or that's their GM keeps his job. Notable additions anyway. Samson Cam, kicker Matt Gay, and Gardner. Really a lot there. Notable losses. Okereke, Stephon Gilmore, and Paris Campbell, along with Matt Ryan joining the CBS booth. Let's start off with the good, though, Moub, and I'll let you take control of what do you like about the Colts this year?
Gosh, oh, right. So what I like about the Colts this year, I mean, is that they finally stopped going for these veteran, old-ass trash quarterbacks that's not getting them nowhere. You know, like I really like them taking a shot at Anthony Richardson. Like, worst case scenario, if he doesn't turn out to be the player that you want to be, he has the type of floor that you're going to be right back in the same pick where you were previously getting it. So if he turns out to not be an NFL caliber quarterback, I'd imagine they'll be right back in the top 5 in the next couple of years, you know, so they can get another QB if they want. So I like them going for it. I like them swinging for the fences. Now, do I think they're at the same level as the Houston Texans in terms of like for the future? No, I would probably slightly peg them just a tad below, just because I prefer the building blocks on defense and the O-line. The Colts had a really strong O-line for a few years, but some of the guys retired, some of the guys have taken a step back, and yeah, but overall, I think similar to the Texans, it's going to be a long rebuild for a couple of years, but I certainly like the way they approached it and the way they're going right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess let's just talk about Anthony Richardson. I mean, I feel like he's been comped to your guy Cam Newton, and he does have those similar traits. He's a mobile quarterback, cannon of an arm. I did episode that chance to have a better rookie season than his rookie year, which is definitely a take considering Cam Newton's rookie year was absolutely insane. But there's pieces on this offense, especially fancy, to come back and be that dude running back in the NFL. I'm a fan of Michael Pittman. I don't think he's the wide receiver 1, but he is a very good high-end wide receiver 2. Alec Pierce flashed in his moments. They drafted Josh Downs. The offensive line is solid. You hope that it gets better from what it was last year. Nelson definitely did not have that great of a season, even though I think he still got his Pro Bowl nod. That shows the Pro Bowl's fucking shit. But like, if everything goes right for the Colts, it's looking good. A lot of it relies on Anthony Richardson, though. With the defense, though, I like DeForest Buckner, I like Shaq Leonard, I like Kenny Moore, and everyone else is kind of a question mark on that defense. There's not a lot really that you can like. There's a lot of guys who break out. Kwity Paye, I like Julius Brents, who usually now, but he killed the combine. But a lot of question marks for the Colts defense. They drafted a shit ton of athletes though on that defense. It'll be something. Not a lot of high expectations for the Colts this year though.
Yeah, neither do I. Not too much expectations. A win for them is probably developing their young players and figuring out if Anthony Richardson can play or not. So again, I think they're building for 2025 and on, but anything they get now is just gravy. Yeah.
Floor and ceiling for the team. I think their floor is definitely right back where they were this year, which is a top 5 pick. If Anthony Richardson even just has an okay year, like, the offense will go as far as he goes, and if he just has an okay, he's really learning the NFL type year, it's going to be bad for them. Ceiling, though, again, I think like the Texans, they can be around 500. I think probably below 500 is the real answer. There's no way they have that 9-8 winning record, but if Anthony Richardson, I just said it, the offense will go as far as he goes, the team will go as far as he goes, and if he's absolutely incredible, like a lot of people expect him to be, it's going to be hard to stop that offense.
Yeah, I don't think there's a team that has as much variance based off of the performance of their quarterback because, again, just as him as a prospect, he's kind of like a boomer bust type. So if he is what his ceiling could be, then the ceiling is for this team even this season. Maybe be 9 wins, which would be insane after the couple of seasons they've had with the veteran QBs that they've had. But yeah, I would stick to the similar type of feeling where top 5 pick is like their floor and ceiling is right around 7, 8, maybe 9 wins. 9 if Anthony Richardson is like Cam or something, but that's what I guess.
Yeah. And I guess I should add before going on to the Titans here, but they did hire Shane Steichen to be their new head coach, obviously, the Philly offensive coordinator. So you see what he did with Jalen Hurts over there in Philadelphia. You would hope that he can translate a lot of that to what he'll hopefully do with Anthony Richardson. So I bring up the coaching hire before we moved on. But let's move on now to the Tennessee Titans. Kind of running this division for the last couple of years, finished year 7-10. I think they went on a 7-game losing streak to end the year. Was not pretty. They were hurt. They're killed by injuries last year, but notable additions for them: Andre Dillard, Arden Key, Aziz Zaire, Daniel Brunskill, and Sean Murphy-Bunting. Losses: Nate Davis, DeMarcus Walker, Robert Woods, David Long, and Bud Dupree. I think I've already made this bet. Oh, how can I forget? DeAndre Hopkins is a Tennessee Titan. I definitely made this before that happened, but I've already made the bet that the Titans are going to win this division. Just because Mike Vrabel is the only thing that I need to believe in this Titans team. And if they're healthy, if Derrick Henry is the Derrick Henry we've seen, the best running back of this generation, they'll keep going. I think that defense is still very, very good, but I mean, Ryan Tannehill, quarterback, the receiving options are definitely better now that Hopkins is there, but there's a lot to be desired coming from the Titans right now. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I actually feel like a similar way to for the Titans. Like a lot of people are like, this division's horrible. It's going to be the Jags running away with it, and I'm just sitting here thinking like, with the scraps of the team that they had last year, they almost won a division, and they're only going to get better.
Yeah,
you just said like the notable like departures, like they didn't, Robert Woods. I'm sorry, he didn't do much. Like Bud Dupree, yeah, okay, whatever. But like they're only going to get healthier. They're going to get their guys back, and like Treylon Burks is going to be second year in the NFL. He should develop. Got DeAndre Hopkins. Unless you anticipate Derrick Henry just falling off a cliff, I don't see how this team will be like a bottom feeder. Like they're going to be in a lot of games. That's just how they are. They're hard running, tough nose, like football team. Like they'll be in every game, like you said, because Mike Vrabel. So I don't know if I'd say they would win a division, but they're definitely going to be competing well into January for the AFC North. AFC South for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think where the Titans did they not have like one of in like week 7, 18 a chance to play the Jags for the division to win the division essentially last year?
I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah, like they finished.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, they finished on a 6-game losing streak, and I think it was they played the Jags and they lost them twice. So those results flip, and there's the division winner right there.
It's a different, exactly. So I want to talk about this defense. I really like this Titans defense. It obviously with Jeffrey Simmons, he got a big bag in the offseason. But someone who doesn't get a shine he really deserves is Harold Landry, the third. coming back. He's back-to-back like season-ending injuries. I know he missed all of last year, but I think his last fully healthy season, he had 16 and a half sacks. This man is a terror off the edge, and people will forget that if he's fully healthy for them. I'm expecting the defense to be great. Chris Fulton, good young corner, drafted Roger McCreary last year. He needs to step up, and now they at least have help with some depth in the secondary with Sean Murphy. This is a very good defense, and I mean, I keep saying it. You have a good defense, you have a good run game, it's to control the clock, it's the Patriots' method. It's why the Pats are still competitive in all these games, even though they got shit play at quarterback. It's good run game, good defense. It trumps all. But I guess let's start talking about the bad. The bad is Ryan Tannehill at this point. If they had anyone else in at quarterback, I would be confident in this Titans team to potentially win this division. Hell, I already bet them winning the division with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. He's hurt a lot at this point, and it is what it is. They hopefully drafted Will Levis to be his replacement, but I don't think you want him playing at all this year. But it's really, if Ryan Tannehill is my big issue for them. And the offensive line. The offensive line does stink. Andre Dillard gets a chance to actually play left tackle after being on the fucking Eagles forever. And they drafted Peter Skronsky. I don't know why, but ESPN has Skronsky as their left guard, even though he should be the right tackle, especially since NPF got suspended for 6 games for gambling because he's a bozo. But yeah, Tannehill and the offensive line. I still think the offensive line could be. I think the offensive line will be better than it was last year. I can say that.
Yeah, well, they would have to try really hard to be worse than what they were last year. That team was, put together with duct tape on, especially on that offensive line. Not very good. Offense as a whole was terrible. They might have had and this is coming from a Carolina Panthers fan. They must have had the worst receiving core in the league last year. I think it was like, I don't think anyone had more than 500 yards or something like that. Like it was a bunch of really terrible guys.
And they almost beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs.
Yeah, with Malik Willis, right? That was the Malik Willis game.
Yeah, with 5 completions or whatever he had.
And Mahomes, I think, threw 65 passes that game, if I'm not mistaken, something like that.
Yeah, this is a team that will be a tough out. Let's go to a little floor and ceiling though for them. I think floor is a top 5 pick. I think the wheels could fall off very easily for this team. It really all relies on Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry. It really all relies on Derrick Henry, if I'm really being honest. If he goes down, there goes the entire offense. Doesn't matter if you bring in Hopkins. Doesn't matter if Burks has a big second year. If Derrick Henry goes down, that's it for them. So I think top 5 pick could very well happen. Ceiling, though, I think they can still win the division. Again, if everything goes right, if everyone stays healthy, no injuries to Tannehill and Henry, I think this is a way better team than they were last year. I think the defense is better. I think that the offense is better. Mike Vrabel is a hell of a coach. Could be nice for the Titans this year. Also could be terrible. That's why it's tough. It's tough year coming for the Titans. It's going to go one way or the other.
I think so for the 4 for me, I think the only way that they'd be picking top 5 would be if they figured out after the first couple of weeks that season's over, nothing's going well, and then you just sell, whatever pieces are left on the team. Or if Derrick Henry's washed and DeAndre Hopkins washed, then in that event, season's over. You win 5 games, and you reevaluate it next year. But other than that, I think you're absolutely right with the chance of them winning the division for sure. That I'd say their ceiling is probably double-digit wins, winning the division, and playing the Jaguars extremely freaking tough, because I feel like with the Jaguars offense and everything, the Titans defense is built to stop that down, and give them real problems. So yeah, I'd say ceiling, double-digit wins, win the division, floor, probably like 4 or 5 wins, top 5 picks, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Start off with the last team, the team that won this division, the Jacksonville Jaguars, going from first overall to 9-8, making the playoffs, having an unbelievable comeback against the choker of the year. I'm not going to say who that is because there are multiple people who should share that mantle on the Chargers. Yeah, this was a Jags team out of nowhere last year. Did not expect this to happen. We'll start off with the notable additions. There's really only one. It's Dearness Johnson. I guess you could kind of say Calvin Ridley because he didn't play last year and he was suspended, but he did get traded last season. But Dearness Johnson, backup running back for them now. Honestly, he's just kind of like Travis Etienne already, so it makes sense that he'd be the backup. Notable losses, though: Jawan Taylor, Shaq Griffin, Arden Key, and Marvin Jones. Starting off with the good. This offense, man, this offense looks very, very good on paper. Like, especially seeing all of those clips from Calvin Ridley in training camp right now, he looks locked and loaded, ready to go. I know I have already found a great line for his yardage total for the season. I think it's at 875 right now. Hammer that over. If he stays healthy, he is clearing 1,000 yards, no problem.
I hope he doesn't hammer the over, though. Probably shouldn't do
that. God, yeah, he started it all, and all of these fucking NFL players are just keep following him now. It's ridiculous. You got Calvin Ridley. Christian Kirk was 1,000-yard receiver last year. He really broke out with Trevor Lawrence. I just talked about Etienne. He's great out of the backfield. Evan Ingram got a bag this offseason. I don't think a lot of people expected that, but he resurrected his career. This could be a Trevor Lawrence MVP season. I think that he has the guys around him to make it work. I think he's in a bad enough division where he will get the stats that he needs. Everything's looking up Jags right now, and haven't been able to say that. I mean, I guess since 2017, but even then, Blake Bortles was their quarterback, and I think we all knew that it was the fucking... I can't think of it before, so I'll just let you talk now.
This Jaguars offense in particular, they've been able to completely turn around. Like you said, those 2017, 2018 Jags completely reliant on the run game and the defense. They've completely flipped that switch now. They're going to be a pass-heavy team with like 3 or 4 really, really solid receivers. I love that they kept their core together, their main group of guys, and then add to it with the addition of Calvin Ridley finally being able to play this year. Mm-hmm. You know, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have the season that a lot of people, I'm not going to say who, but a lot of people thought that Justin Herbert was going to have last year, right? Where you say that he's an MVP contender, watch out for them in the Super Bowl, you know, that really explosive offense. But yeah, I really like their offense. Their defense is no slouch either. Now, you can say what you want about choking. Was it choking? Was it good defense? Was it a combination of both? Who knows? It was a bad coaching, but their defense really got out after in the second half of that game against the Chargers. And they got some pretty solid pieces, like nothing to go get too crazy over, but I think their defense is good enough to keep them in games if their offense is firing for sure. So yeah, I really like this core, and I think they'll be good not only for this season but for many years to come too.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we'll talk about some of those young guys on defense. I mean, Josh Allen is kind of the vet of the defense at this point, and even then, I think he was drafted 2019. Was he 2019?
Yeah, I think he's 25 or something now.
Yeah. So Josh Allen, they just drafted Devin Lloyd last season, right? And Trayvon Walker last season, because I think they had 2 first-round picks for some reason.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah, but Josh Allen, Devin Lloyd, Trayvon Walker, Tyson Campbell, who slowly emerging as one of the top young corners in the league. And then I really love Andre Sisco starting at them for free safety. He was a ball hawk at Syracuse. He's been a ball hawk for them so far. It's a good defense. I was kind of dogging on the defense a little bit, but they have a lot of guys. Is kind of the Chew model from what we found out today. He can just say, "Oh, all of these young guys are going to get better," and it's going to happen if he says it. But I think that's kind of one of my like bad things for the Jaguars is the defense. The defense is still relatively unproven, and they made no major upgrades to it, whether it be free agency or the draft. They're just kind of sticking with what they have, and I think what they have is solid. But I think some people do need to make those jumps to make it a legitimate top 15 defense in the league.
Yeah. And solid is probably all they need to be in order for them to make noise.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And then, yeah, I'll okay. I'll say the one last bad thing I have from them, like after these, like the unproven defensive players, is their starting left tackle Cam Robinson is suspended for the first 4 games of the year. However, they drafted Anton Harrison to, I think, be their starting right tackle, even though Walker Little is pretty good, and I think he played tackle for them a bit last year. But they have guys to step in. Anton Harrison needs to step up immediately in that left tackle spot, though. Hopefully he doesn't play like a rookie and it doesn't really hamper the Jags. But I think the Jags should roll. I'll let you start with the floor and ceiling.
But yeah, I'd say they're, as for ceiling, I'd say is definitely to win the division, make it to another, make it to an AFC championship game. Now, I won't go as far as to say that they can go to the Super Bowl or anything crazy like that. Although we have seen crazier things, like with the Bengals did a couple of years ago. Nobody was expecting that coming into the season. But yeah, I think their defense is going to be really important. Like I said about the Bengals, the reason they made the Super Bowl that year is because their defense stepped up big time in the playoffs. So if the Jaguars get some real good production out of their defense and then their offense is who expect them to be, I think they can definitely make a run out of it in the AFC and compete with just about any team. And for their floor, probably 500.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think floor for them, I have losing the division. So I think it will be not enough for a wild card if they do lose the division. Because I only think one team in the AFC South will make the playoffs. That shouldn't come as a shock. So it's rather they lose the division or they make the playoffs in my mind. For their ceiling, again, we said it, I think they have the ability to be the Super Bowl champs. Again, there's some questions, but I look at what they have on offense, what they're building, what the defense is building. I think they have a shot at potentially being a Super Bowl champion this year. Okay, we'll finish off with the division awards, you should say. Let's start off with breakout player. And I'll go with Hugh Texan, Derek Stingley. Stingley definitely got overshadowed by Sauce Gardner and Tariq Woolen having absolutely incredible seasons. Stingley was fine last year, wasn't great. I'm expecting him to have a bigger year, especially with more of a front seven presence that can get to the quarterback this year, hopefully give him a little bit more time. But having D'Amico Ryans be his head coach now, I think this is going to be a big year for Stingley and will prove why he was that 3rd overall pick last season.
I like that for sure. Like Stingley is a part of the new age of corners that have been coming into the league last couple of years. Like I'm thinking about Surtain, thinking about Horn, I'm thinking about Sumner, Woolen, and everything like that. And I think Stingley gets undershadowed by all the other young great corners in the NFL and today's league. But yeah, I think with the full healthy off season and being able to come in and hopefully play a full 17-game season, I think he'll be able to silence a lot of the doubters, because again, wasn't able to play a complete college career either. So it's just about getting reps, getting comfortable, and I could definitely see him being a Pro Bowler and maybe even more. So it's definitely a good pick. I was thinking about that too. For myself, I went a different side of the ball. I went with Treylon Burks, and the reason I did was this team has a huge need
Great
for
pick.
production from the wide receiver spot. I think that DeAndre Hopkins is going to be able to open some things up from him. I think he's going to be able to learn from DeAndre Hopkins. And again, if you get a better offensive line, healthy, better productive season from Ryan Tannehill, I can definitely see a jump, maybe 1,000 yard season. He only had one touchdown, which is I think came off a broken play. I don't even think it was like thrown to him or anything. I think it was like a fumble from Derek. Yeah. So yeah, if the Titans want to do anything this season, they're gonna need some like a massive step from Treylon Burks this season.
Yeah. I mean, I think, he definitely flashed in the games that he played in last year. It would not shock me, again, if things go right for the Titans, if Treylon Burks has a bigger role in this offense or even outproduces Hopkins this year. That would take a big season from him, but I think he has the potential to do that. I mean, let's go into Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It was one or the other QB. I obviously went with Anthony Richardson just because that ceiling is much, much higher. I don't really think I have to explain that one because he's just that great of a talent. So Anthony Richardson, Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, same. I also, you only have two choices really. I went with Richardson as well, and the reason is because he's liable to give you 1,000 yards on the ground and 10 touchdowns right out the gate. And even if he only throws for 10 to 12 touchdowns and has like 10 picks or something, that rushing production is probably going to take him over the edge. And unless CJ Stroud has this unbelievable, super efficient season, I think it's Richardson as the word to lose.
Yeah. Well, since we had the same one, I'll let you start with Defensive Rookie of the Year. I'm assuming we'll have the same again.
Yeah, so if you look at the defensive class for this division, there's not really much to choose from. I'm pretty sure the first 3 rounds, there was only one defensive player taken out of those 4 teams, which is Julius Brents. So, I mean, this is kind of like, like it really is his to lose. I mean, like, there's nobody else unless, like, there's some undrafted player that plays better than him, which is entirely possible, by the way.
Well, wait. So you're picking Julius Brents as your defensive rookie of the year for this division?
Yeah, there's who else was I'm looking at it, and there from the Will Anderson. Oh yeah. I'm tripping. I think what happened was I was looking at the draft class and I'm like, all right, the Texans their first round pick was
CJ Stroud,
CJ Stroud, and then I just like moved on to the next team, and I was like, all right, but yeah, no, but Julius Brent's gonna be sneaky though, really, he's gonna be real sneaky. I'm kidding.
He is. He's gonna start with him anyway. So
yeah, so I guess that's 2 defensive players in the whole division that were taken in the first 2 rounds, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But again, Will Anderson, self-explanatory. I'm sure even if he has 3 sacks in the season, he'd still be the best defensive rookie. So.
Probably. Okay, offensive player of the year. I'm going to go with the best offensive player in this division. It's going to be Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry stays fully healthy. He will have 10 touchdowns on the year. He'll have 1,500 yards. He will carry this Titans offense as far as he'll go. Derrick Henry, offensive player of the year.
Yeah, I was considering between 2 players, Derrick Henry and Trevor Lawrence, and I really don't think it's fair to give offensive player of the years and stuff like that to quarterbacks because they just get MVPs and the position players get no love whatsoever. So yeah, I completely agree with you. Best offensive skilled position player in the division by a mile, maybe. I mean, I love Travis Etienne, but yeah, I don't think he's anything close to Derrick Henry. He's able to carry an offense to himself. So yeah, like everything you just said, Derrick Henry, definitely my offensive player of the year for this division.
Mm-hmm. Defensive player of the year, I'm going to stick with the Tennessee Titans. I talked about him a bit already. It's Harold Landry. I think if Harold Landry stays healthy, he has the chance to have 12 plus sack season. He's done it before already, especially with Simmons taking up a lot of the or him getting a lot of the attention. It frees up a one-on-one matchup for him on the outside. I'm hoping that Harold Landry has a big season this year.
Yeah, he's Harold Landry, like you said. When he's healthy, he's a difference maker. Question is, you just got to be on the field, especially when you have someone like Jeffrey Simmons, who's going to take up a lot of double teams for you, and free up a lot of that space for you to get one-on-ones on the outside. So yeah, it's a great pick. I'm also leaning on the Titans team as well. I'm just going Jeffrey Simmons because I don't want to overthink it. He's probably the best defensive player in that division. I mean, I don't think it's probably he's definitely the best defensive player if I'm really thinking about it. And I think he's gonna have a huge difference this season. I think he's gonna be a catalyst to why the Titans have such a great season. So yeah, I'm going with Jeffrey Simmons as the defensive player of the year for that AFC South.
All right, AFC South MVP Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I even said I think he has an outside chance to be the league MVP. So in the MVP in this division should not be that hard for him. So Trevor Lawrence MVP.
Yeah, same here. Again, doesn't have much to compete with. The only other person is probably Derrick Henry, and how much impact is he going to have compared to the impact that Trevor Lawrence is going to have. So yeah, I don't. Again, I feel like a lot of these picks for this division, because it's so weak and so weird, that a lot of these players and picks and stuff are going to be similar to each other. So yeah, again, same with you, Trevor Lawrence.
Okay, and to finish it off, division winner, I'm assuming we both have the same, and it is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yes. Yeah. Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay. All right, that wraps up the AFC South. Let's move over to the NFC so we can talk some mad shit about some of these NFC South teams. We'll start off with, so this is the thing. I was trying to remember who actually came last in this division, because it was the Bucs 8-9, and then the Saints, Falcons, and Panthers all at 7-10 to finish one of the worst divisions in NFL history. Just everyone was just okay. I think the Falcons came last though, right?
The Falcons. So it was Bucs, Panthers, Saints, Falcons.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Saints, Panthers, but yeah, I think you're definitely right. So yeah, let's start off with the Atlanta Falcons. Definitely a season that not a lot of people expected from them. I remember this time last year in the offseason, a lot of people thought that the Falcons had an outside chance at being the number 1 overall pick, the worst team in football. They greatly exceeded those expectations, finishing 7-10. And let's start off with some notable additions. We got Jesse Bates, David Onyemata, Caden Ellis, Taylor Heineke, Jeff Okudah, Calais Campbell, Bud Dupree, and Mike Hughes. Notable losses for them, only Marcus Mariota and Isaiah Oliver. Let's start off with the good here. So this Falcons team, they ran the ball a lot last year, whether it was with Cordero Patterson, just a weapon, or rookie Tyler Algier, who finished, I think he broke the Falcons rookie rushing record, had a very good year, ended up with 1,000 yards. And they went and decided, doesn't matter how good their running game was last year. I think it was top 5 in the league. They went after Bijan Robinson to make that run game even better behind this already great run blocking offensive line. And they added another rocker to that in Matthew Bergeron, who I think will start at left guard for them. But they're just going to play. They're going to turn back the clock. They're going to go back 60 years, and they're just going to run the ball down everyone's throat. They don't care if Desmond cannot throw the ball. They are going to run the ball all over you. I said it in my hot take. I think Bijan and Tyler Algier have a chance to both rush for 1,000. Goddamn. Have a chance to both rush for 1,000 yards. And that's not even mentioning guys like London, who did have a very good rookie year, or Kyle Pitts, who we all know that talent's in there for him. Just hasn't shown it. They have a lot of their offense is really good. It's just Desmond Ridder's quarterback.
Yeah. So what's really strange about what the Falcons have been doing these last couple of years, they had an aging Matt Ryan and aging Julio Jones, and usually you tank and you get a quarterback, or you build a team and then you get a quarterback. But they've just constantly been kind of just going at it, adding pieces slowly but surely. They spent a couple of picks on offensive line back in 2019, and then they get a tight end, then they get a wide receiver, now they get a running back. So they've slowly but surely built up that entire offense except for quarterback, and which is, the most important position on the field. But yeah, their offensive line dominating. I believe they're top 5 last season, if I'm not mistaken. They got 2 really good running backs, like you said, could potentially rush for 1,000 in the same season. My biggest issue with the offense is, other than Drake London, I believe their wide receiver 2 is Mac Hollins, which is not a good thing. But, I mean, when you run the ball probably like 40 times a game, doesn't matter. But, yeah, and then they made some additions on defense. I really liked their addition of Jesse Bates, because they had a really bad defense rate-wise last year, because their defense wasn't on the field very much because the offense was dominating time possession. But when they were on the field, they were getting absolutely gashed. So I love the addition of Jesse Bates and Calais Campbell. So those should be really 2 guys that should make a difference on that side of the ball.
Yeah. Since we're just talking about their defense here, I think that their defensive unit is one of the most improved since last season. I mean, they added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 starters on the defense. Calais Campbell, David Onyemata, Caden Ellis, Bud Dupree, Jesse Bates, and Fakuda got hurt off. I would have mentioned this in the top of the show, but since we haven't recorded that yet, he's supposed to be fine, at least good for the start of the season-ish. So hopefully he actually stays healthy, but it's a good defense. It's a much, much better defense than last year. And I want to say that this is the best roster in this division if you don't include quarterback.
Yeah.
I think it's close.
Yeah, they again, like I said, their offense is okay, if they had, it's almost as if their offense was built around a team that has someone like Lamar Jackson, except they don't have Lamar Jackson. They have Desmond Ridder. So you're just like, okay, if they had the right guy there, this could potentially be like a 13 or 14-win team. Like, that's how dominating the O-line is, and how good of running backs, and they have a good tight end, good wide receiver. So, but yeah, this is definitely a talented roster from top to bottom, offense, defense. It's just that, how good is Ridder? Is he like a backup level quarterback? Is he worse than that? Is he like a back end starter type of quarterback? Remains to be seen. He didn't look good last year. Hopefully that was just rookie jitters, and he'll turn it around. But I mean, we'll see. It really, really just depends on how good he is. Because if he's an NFL caliber starter, they'll be fine. But if he's not, then that really messes up the potential for the season.
Yeah. Floor/ceiling. I think their floor is kind of where they were this past season, around 500. They should be, the team's much better than it was last year, so they should be better than 7-10, you would think. Obviously, that's not how the NFL works, or we'd all be millionaires off gambling right now. But so I think they'll finish around 500, and then their ceiling is the division winner. I think, spoiler, I think I'm going to have the exact same floor and ceiling for all of the, actually, not the Bucks. The Bucks stink. But I will have the same floor and ceiling for the Panthers and the Saints coming up here because I think it's that tight of a race again still.
It's this is really weird because, again, like you said, I completely agree because you have three teams. Like, sorry, Bucks, whatever. Let's just get you out of there. We have three teams that finished with the exact same record last year. That on paper all got better, but obviously, again, like you said, this is the NFL. That's not how it works. So, I would tend to agree. I think their ceiling is to be similar to what the Giants were last year, where you get to maybe like 10 or 11 wins. I know the Giants didn't win the division though, but that's, different circumstance, much better division. But where you run the ball like crazy, you have a pretty good defense, you have a good offensive line, and then might even win a playoff game because that's what it takes in January, right? Just to run the ball, play great defense and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd say that in the floor is probably around a little bit under 500, like 7-8 wins or so. But yeah, this is a really interesting division for sure.
Okay, we will move on then to the New Orleans Saints. Again, 7-10. They hung around. Like, again, they almost won the division last year over the Bucks. There was just a couple close games that really didn't go their way with Andy Dalton as their starting quarterback. Can you imagine Andy Dalton 2022 starting in a playoff game? Like, come on. Yeah. The notable additions for them, though, this year, we got Derek Carr, Nathan Shepard, Colin Saunders, Foster Moreau, Jamal Williams, and Jimmy Graham coming back from the dead. Notable losses, Marcus Davenport, David Onyemata, Jarvis Landry, Shai Tuttle, and Caden Ellis. Let's start about the good of this team. I just talked about Andy Dalton a little bit. Andy Dalton was their starter for the majority of the season last year. And we both don't like Derek Carr, but we both know Derek Carr is a much better quarterback than Andy Dalton is at this point in their careers. And just that right there is a crazy upgrade for them. And again, I still don't think that they can make the playoffs they're like the favorites to win this division just based off a major quarterback upgrade. Yeah, and then Chris Olave doesn't get talked about enough. I think Garrett Wilson kind of overshadowed, given off his QB play was much, much worse than what Olave had to deal with. And that's saying a lot from a Jets perspective with how bad Zach Wilson and Flacco and Mike White all were. Andy Dalton was way better than those guys. But Chris Olave had quietly a very, very good year. And hopefully another Ohio State wide receiver finally gets on the field since, 2019. Is that the last real time he played football? Michael Thomas?
So Michael Thomas, I think, has played in a total of 6 or 7 games since the Offensive Player of the Year season in 2019, where he broke the reception record.
And I'm still going to try to draft him in fantasy this year.
Yeah, he's a steal. Never know.
I'm still not giving up on him.
He might give you 8 games this year.
Yeah. That's the thing. This is a Saints team that is still solid. Their GM, I think it's Mickey Loomis, he is the king of restructuring and kicking that can down the road for whatever reason at this point. The Saints have needed the Saints have needed to go into a full rebuild ever since Drew Brees left, and they were just refusing to. And this is kind of where we are, where they're still solid. They still have a chance to make the playoffs, but for what reason? Because we know that they're not going to win a playoff game.
Yeah, the Saints, to me, are a really interesting team. I think they're kind of going in that same route that the Colts were the last couple of years, but they're a much more structured organization that actually knows what they're doing. So they're kind of doing it in a smarter way, but like you said, they're just kind of kicking the can down the road. Derek Carr is probably the best quarterback they've had since Drew Brees in 2018, maybe because those last couple of years of Drew Brees were rough. But yeah, this team, if you get a full season out of Michael Thomas, which at this point is might be even crazier than making the playoffs. Like, like winning the division is okay, but getting like 10 games out of Michael Thomas might be even wilder than that. Like they have pieces. Their offensive line is good enough. Their running backs. Or if you get a full healthy season out of Alvin Kamara, of course he's suspended first 3 games this season, which
Yep.
for as a Panthers fan who played them week 2, happy for that. But I'd imagine for them, not so much. You get a combination of Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams, might bring you back to the time of Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Which is good for them. Defense was really like sneaky, really, really good last year. Like that was kind of like the side of the ball that kind of carried them to seven wins last year. And when you hear someone saying carried to 7 wins, that's like really bad. But their defense was really, really tough last year. And I think it was like I saw a stat at the end of last year. It was like in December or something. They were like allowing like 7 points per game or something crazy like that. They were playing really well.
Yeah. No, that defense is still like insanely strong. Like Cam Jordan, who just signed an extension, and then vets like Tyrann Mathieu and Marcus May and Marshawn Lattimore and Demario Davis up the middle. Defense is still a problem. Defense is still very good. And I think the Saints might have the deepest tight end room in the entire league. It is absolutely unbelievable, starting with Jawan Johnson, who flashed in his moments last year, had some big plays for them. They brought in Foster Moreau, who I thought was very solid for the Raiders. I wanted him on the Dolphins. At third string, this is where Tyson Hill comes in, and you never know what you get from him. He can be the key cog on the offense one week, and then the next week you won't hear his name once. And then for some goddamn reason, here comes Jimmy Graham after not playing any football all of last year to come in and for some reason be their 4th-string tight end. I have no idea what he's doing here, but good for him for being back on the Saints. But that's honestly, those are 4 tight ends who like I could all see getting like pretty consistent reps, which I don't know why you need 4 tight ends in this day and age.
Yeah, that was really strange. Like I saw, I think it was either ESPN or NFL. They posted Jimmy Graham's back with the Saints, and then I think they said something like what are his stat predictions, or do you think he'll be able to turn back the clock? And they're showing highlights from him on the Saints, and I'm just like, this was from the Obama administration, okay, guys, just forget it. Like this was 10 years ago we're talking about here, like these highlights
so long ago.
And I don't know. I mean, good story for the fans, I guess. Get your Jamie Graham jerseys back out, but yeah, I really don't know what they're doing with that one. But it's funny though.
Yeah. I guess let's talk about a little bit of the bad. We've already kind of brought up some issues. Alvin Kamara is suspended for the first 3 games of this season. Michael Thomas is just the biggest question mark in the history of the league. We both don't really like Derek Carr, even though it's still an upgrade. And I think the last thing we need to touch on is Dennis Allen as the head coach. I just don't. I think he is what he is. He's a good defensive coordinator. He's not a head coach. He's had his chance to be a head coach when he was with the Raiders. Did a terrible job last year. Didn't look like they really amounted to much. I think this is probably his last year with the team, and I think that's probably a big reason why the Saints won't go as far as they probably could, is because I don't think the coaching it matches up with the other coaches in this division, sadly.
Yeah, I see Dennis Allen, completely agree. He's one of probably the best defensive coordinators in the league when he was with Saints to DC. But as a head coach, he's kind of just overmatched. I don't know if he's really built for this. Like, he's really, really good at calling the defense. The offense was an absolute mess last year. So again, if you want to point at, oh, it's the quarterbacks, oh, it's the position players or whatever. It was working with Sean Payton with the same team, right? So I don't know if you kind of – I don't know if they will fire him after the season. Things would have to go really bad. I mean, if they're like a competitive 500 type team. I don't see it, but if the wheels really start to come off and they finish much slower than projected, then I can definitely see him getting the can after the season.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about these floors and ceilings. I already said what mine is. It's around 500 for the floor, and it's the division winner for the ceiling. Simple as that.
Yeah. Same here. I think floor division winners. I think they can probably be a double-digit winning team. Things would have to go right. Derek Carr is going to have to not be a pussy, and yeah, hopefully you go from there, and then the ceiling is. The floor is probably like where they were last year, just running in circle and just doing that. But yeah, I think it's about it. It's really, again, this whole division, you could say the exact same thing for.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to your team now. Carolina Panthers finished 7-10 last season after a terrible start to the year, where I think a lot of us thought that, hey, they were going to be picking first overall on their own merit, and nope, turns out you're picking first overall after a big trade up to finally hopefully get your franchise QB since Cam Newton. Let's start off with the notable additions. You guys got Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, Miles Sanders, Von Bell, Hayden Hurst, and Shai Tuttle. Notable losses: DJ Moore, Deonta Foreman, PJ Walker, and Sam Darnold. Moub, we'll start off with the good. What do you like about this Panthers team this year?
So I really, really, really like their coaching staff that they put together over the offseason. They added, it was a lot of young coaches, a lot of coaches with experience, a lot of like former players that also joined the staff. I really like everything they did. Like on the offensive side of the ball alone, they have Frank Reich, Deuce Staley, Josh McCown, Jim Caldwell, Sean Jefferson is the wide receiver coach. Like, they have so much experience, and also they also have guys who can learn and develop underneath them. And Thomas Brown, a complete offense coordinator that they got from the Rams. So I really like the coaching staff that they put together. I think the ownership was like, we had a real clown show going on over here the last couple of years. Let me actually really invest my time, effort, and money into building the best possible coaching staff. So that's what I really liked. And then also love how aggressive they were going after the number 1 overall pick, because they were at the 9th pick, and you're not guaranteed to get a QB at that spot. They evaluated early on in the process, and they said, we got to get our guy, which I really liked. And then it did cost them DJ Moore, but that's the cost of business. You got to be aggressive sometimes if you want to go where you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of just talked about the coaching staff, which I also have as one of my points. I think it's one of the best built coaching staffs around the league right now. Obviously, that's with nothing watched at all, but I still really like the coaching staff. One of the interesting hires from this year is they managed to poach Deuce Staley over from the Lions to be their assistant head coach / running backs coach, which I think is a great hire for them. But yeah, let's talk about let's talk about this defense. Panthers defense could absolutely go nuts this year, especially with them hiring Giro Evero to be the defensive coordinator this year. Like, big year for Brian Burns. I think Derek Brown finally got that mean streak back in him, and he looks like an absolute force again. Frankie Louvu was absolutely fantastic last season. Shaq Thompson still very solid. And then hopefully JC Horn stays healthy and is that corner that we all know that he is.
Yeah, the defense is going to be really important this year, because they're going to be changing things up philosophically. Like, they were running a lot of 3-3-5 and a lot of weird college style defenses last year with their old DC that they got from Baylor. Blanking on the name here, but Giro Evero did a really good job in Denver. Also was with the Rams, if I'm not mistaken, won the Super Bowl there. And I think they're going to be able to get some stuff out of the younger guys. There's a lot of linebackers and edge rushers, real athletic dudes that we've been spending picks on the last couple of years that haven't really popped. And, maybe it's the coaching, maybe it's just for whatever reason, it's just not working out for them. But I think if you can light a fire under some of those players, I think that's what's going to be able to take the team to the next level. I think that Derek Brown is going to continue his ascent. He was borderline elite player last season, just absolutely went insane after the first 2 years of his career were kind of lackluster. You got Brian Burns, obviously, and then J.C. Horn, if he can stay healthy, one of the premier talents at corner in the league. And, defense has potential.
And they brought in Justin Houston also this past week, which, Justin Houston, guy who's been around for like 2 decades, not really, but feels like it. And he's still a solid contributing pass rusher. So the defense is very good, but let's talk about the smallest man in NFL football history, Bryce Young. I think everyone knows that he is a very, very good quarterback, and I think everyone's one concern with him is his size. I don't think it's going to matter at the end of the day, and honestly, all of the young quarterbacks went to a spot where they have good, solid weapons around them, good run games, and good offensive lines. Because again, this Panthers offensive line, pretty fucking solid. Bryce Young goes to a very good spot to develop his talent, and the Panthers are going to go as far as Bryce Young goes. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Like, again, last year, you would think that the offensive line would be a problem on a team that was like really, really bad and the quarterback production wasn't good at all. But that couldn't have been further from the truth. Like Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, PJ Walker, all these guys had time in the pocket to throw. They just weren't very good at throwing. So that kind of led to the early struggles, early part of the season. And then Steve Wilkes came in there and was like, hey, you know what, guys? We're a really tough football team, really good offensive line. Let's run the damn football. And when they finally started running the ball, they were running like 200 yards a game. They were absolutely gashing teams. They turned their season around off the strength of the offensive line and off the strength of the run game. Now, if you got a quarterback that even at the absolute worst case scenario could just be a game manager and a distributor and get the ball to your running backs, playmakers, tight ends, whatever, then I think that's exactly what you need. Control the time of possession, run it down their throats, throw it to your tight ends, your running backs, your wide receivers. Just move the chains, and I think they have exactly everything they need to do to get that done.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with you. Again, it's going to be a very tight divisional race. Let's talk about the bad from this team for a little bit. The offensive weapons. They're good, not great. But relying on Adam Thielen to be your wide receiver one in the year 2023 is not a great thing. I will say, though, I think Terrace Marshall and Jonathan Mingo should be the 1-2 at the end of the year this year. Should definitely be starting over Adam Thielen and DJ Chark. That's for damn sure if they have any type of ability whatsoever.
Yeah, Terrace Marshall really stepped up towards the latter part of last season as a deep threat because they were kind of using him early on in the season as running shorter routes and stuff like that. And that's really not his place at all. He's kind of one of those vertical guys who run post routes and things of that nature. And he was really successful towards the end of the season when he was running those types of routes. Now they also have DJ Chark, who runs very similar type of routes and is also very athletic in his own right as well. So we'll see. They have an interesting group of receivers, 2 really young receivers, Marshall and Mingo, that don't really have too much experience. Laviska Shenault, he's kind of like a weird type of player, but I absolutely love. Just essentially like a Cordero Patterson type of player who's going to take snaps out of the backfield and run a bunch of screens. I don't think he ran a route past 5 yards last season. I think they're all bubble screens or handoffs or or wide receiver screens and things of that nature. But yeah, if they can get anything out of Thielen, if they can get anything out of him, like a 700-800 yard season, that would be a win.
Mhm.
So we'll see. This is just a really weird receiving core.
That is definitely for sure. And I think my one other note for the bad would be the depth in the secondary is not great. J.C. Horn is obviously unbelievable when he's healthy, and that's been the big issue because outside of J.C. Horn, you got guys like Dante Jackson and C.J. Henderson who have flashed but have never shown anything consistent. And for some reason, ESPN has Jeremy Chin as the backup right corner and not even starting at safety. Has he just fallen off and I haven't been paying attention?
No, he kind of plays all over the field. He plays in the box as strong safety. Sometimes he's playing free safety. Sometimes he's playing nickel corner. Sometimes he's playing as an outside linebacker. So
that makes sense.
Where he'll eventually start, maybe in the box as like a strong safety, but they also signed Eric. Sorry, not Eric. Well, no, they did sign Eric, but they also signed Von Bell as a strong safety as well. So where they play him is kind of up to Evero. So we'll see. But he's kind of all over the place. You can put him wherever, and he's really athletic and all over the field.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess let's go into the floor and ceiling. They're going to be around 500, or they're going to be the division winner. It's simple as that. I don't think there's going to be two teams from this division making the playoffs. I'd be shocked if that were the case.
Yeah. Again, same here. But I would probably just go a little further because this entire offseason, I was like so sure that after all the moves that happened at draft, free agency, everything, and I've never been more confident in my life that the Panthers were going to win the division. So I go into DraftKings and FanDuel earlier today, and I'm like, they're the favorites to win the division, right? And then both of them happened third. And I have never been so sure in my life that they would win the division. And it's like plus 400. And I was like, am I like, either I'm really just like out of touch, or I'm just being incredibly biased. But I wasn't even thinking about it and like I was trying to think about it from like a non-biased perspective and be like, yeah, all the other teams are good. I think I'm also just thinking about like the future of the team as well. Like they're gonna be like the only one with like a franchise quarterback going forward type of thing. So maybe that's just what it was. But yeah, I could see them winning like
the Panthers
11 games.
The Panthers definitely have a future in the division. It's whether or not it'll just happen immediately. I don't know, but that's the thing. Like looking at those picking the division winners, like in the odds just don't make sense. The Saints, the Falcons, and the Panthers should all be relatively close, and there's way too big of a gap between. It's great odds getting the Panthers at that number. Let's talk about another NFC South team, the team that ended up winning the division last year. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers finished with the losing record, making the playoffs at 8-9. Yeah, they are bad this year. So let's start off with the losses because there are a lot of them and a lot of notable names. Starting off with Tom Brady, and we got Leonard Fournette, Cameron Brate, Akeem Hicks, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Donovan Smith, and Raheem Nunez-Roches. And the notable additions for the Buccaneers this offseason, Baker Mayfield. That is it. So yeah, this is not a good Bucs team. I think it's very easy to say that. But let's try to talk about what we actually like about this team. I still like the defense. I think the defense still has nice pieces. I think Todd Bowles he's a defensive coordinator. He shouldn't be a head coach, but Vita Vea in the middle, big motherfucker. He's very good. They drafted Kalijah Kancey, who got some comparisons to Aaron Donald, mainly just because he's an undersized defensive tackle who went to Pitt. Still very athletic and very good in his own right. They're hoping that Joe Tryon-Shionka, I probably said that wrong, holy shit, that he develops after being a first-round pick for them. Vontae Davis, Kevin White, Shaq Barrett, Jamel Dean, Anton Winfield, Carlton Davis. Like, the defense is still good. The defense still has some guys. I think we can say that with some confidence that the Bucs defense won't be terrible this year, right?
Yeah, so I think the Bucs are going to be just a really, really annoying team to play because of just how good their run defense is and their defensive alignment has been for like the last 4 or 5 years. I can already see like a couple games in the season where they're going to win with like scoring like 10 points and the other team's going to score like 6 or whatever, 3 points just based off the strength of their defense. Their offense, however, you know, we don't need to talk about that just yet. But they're I really like their defense. I mean, losing Sean Murphy Bunting is going to be a huge loss. But the one thing that I have to say about the Bucs the last couple of years is they have really good depth, like Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean, still have Antoine Winfield Jr. Like they still have some really good pieces on the back end. You know, you still got Devin White, Levante David. They essentially have the same core that they did that won the Super Bowl, right? Like minus just a couple of pieces, but it's going to be like a really tough defense, especially with defense to run against. Like you're not going to be able to get much yards against these guys on the ground.
No. And I mean, fuck, we'll talk about the offense, but the only thing I like about the offense, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And Tristan Wirfs. Everyone else is replaceable at best. Like truly, there's nothing else on offense that I can be like, yeah, that's a positive going in the right direction position. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Tristan Wirfs. That is the only good to talk about on the offense. But yeah. You can keep going. You have a thought.
I was just going through their depth chart right now on offense, and you know, the quarterback groups not looking good, running back groups not looking great. I mean, Sean Webb, we'll see the tight end positions not looking good. Like this is gonna be a tough time on offense the entire season.
Yeah. And I mean, let's just get right into the bad then. I mean, we just kind of said it. QB, ass. Offensive line, ass. Coaching, ass. And that's the thing. They're taking their best offensive lineman, too, who is a right tackle, has always been a right tackle, and moving him to the left side. And I think it got reported that like he's been in therapy because it's been such a hard transition to him because it's so much muscle memory. Always going one way, always moving one way, and then you have to relearn the same movements to still be an elite left tackle. So it's a struggle for Tristan Wirfs there, but it's bad. The offense is bad. Todd Bowles will be fired by the end of this year. Like I don't think that there's any way he keeps his job. It's a flat out bad team. I think the defense is still good. But this offense, I think there's no way Mike Evans gets his 10th straight 1,000-yard season with Baker Mayfield.
This is a team that won 8 games last year that absolutely struggled on offense with Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And I know Tom Brady isn't 2007 Tom Brady. Like I know last year he wasn't, but he's still a very, very capable, very good quarterback. And he struggled, and the offense struggled. So going from someone who's probably either just inside the top 10 as a quarterback last season, or just maybe on slightly on the outside of the top 10, to going to someone who might not even be a top 40 quarterback in the league, that's going to be a significant drop off. Baker Mayfield had all the chances in the world to succeed in the Panthers offense last year, and he got outplayed by PJ Walker. And he got outplayed by Sam Darnold. And none of those guys are NFL starters. So I don't know what that says about Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. I mean, fuck, he's still here getting a starting job. Good for him. I'm still liking the comparison for Baker Mayfield being that new Ryan Fitzpatrick, who he can just come into a game, not really do much, but then he'll have those wow plays that get them back in. He's got that fiery personality that get the guys going, but I think that's what he's going to be. He's going to be a career journeyman for the rest of his career, but that means he can probably play till his mid-30s if he does keep it up. Let's talk about the floor and ceiling. Finally, I can say a different floor than around 500 / division winner, because this is just a bad team. Their floor is off. Again, there's not a lot of bad teams who I can flat out say that are straight up bad teams other than really the Bucks and the Cardinals. So their floor, top 10 pick, and I think their ceiling, floor, top 3 pick, ceiling, top 10 pick. It's just going to be a bad year for the Bucks. They will be picking in those top 10 spots no matter what. Not a bad thing when you're rebuilding. You won your Super Bowl in 2020. Now retool, rebuild, maybe be bad enough to get Caleb Williams or Drake May. We'll see, but it's going to be a long year for Bucks fans.
Yeah, I would say that their floor is probably winless. It might be a chance these guys literally go like 0 for 17. That would probably be the most impressive feat that they can do this season, because because they're not winning more than 5 games at most, right? So I would, as a Panthers fan, I really do hope that they win like 4 or 5 games so they don't get either Caleb Williams or Drake May. That's me personally, but I can see them picking. It's just a matter of which pick in the top 10. It's not like, oh, they can win the division. Oh, they might. No. We're talking about which pick in the top 10 are they going to be picking? Are they going to be picking in the top 3, or are they going to be picking in like the bottom like half of the top 10? But we'll see. It's definitely going to be there for sure.
Yeah. Okay, let's finish off with the division awards. Starting off with breakout player. I have written down here Jeff Okudah, which now that he's got hurt again, I'm kind of reconsidering, but off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone, so I'm just going to talk about Jeff Okudah. I still have faith that he can be that player that everyone thought he was going to be in 2020. Generational cornerback prospect, some called him. I think he has a good chance being cornerback number 2 opposite AJ Terrell to really get his footing in this defense. I just hope this is it for him. I hope he finds his spot with the Falcons and he becomes maybe not what we all projected him to be when he was getting drafted, but at least a solid starter. That's what I want to see from Jeff Okudah this year.
Yeah, Jeff Okudah got off to a really unfortunate start, right? I think there was like an Achilles tear. I had a rough rookie season and an Achilles tear, and last season just wasn't that good. Like he was okay. Maybe a change of scenery would be good for him. Again, I think he got injured, but I don't know if he said it wasn't very like serious or something. Like as long as he's able to hopefully show off to a team that he's still like, there's still something left in him that we could maybe squeeze out. Maybe it was just going to the right team. That Lions team, like, had probably a rough time last couple of years of developing DBs anyway. So again, maybe a change of scenery will turn him into a player that maybe not the player we thought coming out, but someone who could start for a lot of teams. For my player, I chose is, funny enough, another Ohio State player. Seems to be a lot of them in the NFL. They're doing really good. But Chris Olave, I'm not sure if it technically counts as a breakout because he was so great last year. But I think that I had him actually ranked higher than Garrett Wilson coming out, and he was my favorite wide receiver at Ohio State. Watched almost all of those games with I think from like 2019 to 2021. And he's just so smooth, so fast, good hands. Like you're gonna have a hard time to say anything bad about his game. I think he has the potential to make that similar jump that Justin Jefferson had his second year in the NFL. So I think he can be a 1,500-yard receiver this season, especially with a guy like Derek Carr who's experienced and could throw for a lot of yards himself. So yeah, I'd say Chris Olave for sure.
Okay. Moving on to Offensive Rookie of the Year, I'm going to go with your quarterback, Bryce Young. Pretty easy for me to pick him for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Obviously, he does have some competition with Bijan, but I'm going to talk about Bijan in a bit here. Bryce Young, though, wins Offensive Rookie of the Year just because I didn't want to give it to Bijan, because Bijan can't win multiple awards for me. So Bryce Young, Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, same. I went with Bryce Young. I'm sure it's a huge surprise that I did, but for a quarterback, I don't think the bar is extremely high for you to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. You kind of just need to win, and if they win a division, I really have a hard time. And if they win the division and make the playoffs, I really have a hard time thinking that anyone else in the entire league, much less the division, would win Offensive Rookie of the Year over him.
Defensive rookie, although I'll throw the bone to a Bucks. We'll go with Elijah Cansey. He will start for them on that defensive or interior defensive line. Again, he did get those Aaron Donald comparisons. They're not completely just because Aaron Donald's one of the best defensive players of all time, but he's got that quick burst. He's got good hands. He's a little undersized, but I don't think there's anyone really else you can pick, because I think it was between Elijah Cansey or Brian Breesy, who won't even start for the Saints more than likely. So Elijah Cansey, Defensive Rookie of the Year for the division.
Yeah, same. Again, like you said, that defensive line for the Bucks has been dominant for years. Then you add a guy like Elijah Cansey, because of all the great players that they do have on that line, that's going to kind of like help his workload out a little bit, and the coaching with Todd Bowles and everything. They know how to get their guys right. So I think he'll be really good. Maybe not at the start of the season, especially because he's coming off of I think it was like with a calf injury or something. So whenever I think it might take him a little longer to get into form. But once he does, I think he's going to be a really good player on that defense.
Yeah. Offensive Player of the Year, I'm going to go with your breakout player, and I'm going to give this to Chris Olave. Again, I also think that he has the potential. I mean, he had 1,000 yards with Andy Dalton being his quarterback last year. Derek Carr is that big of an upgrade. Even though it is Derek Carr, I'm expecting a massive year for Chris Olave being the focal point of the offense. Hopefully, he'll have Michael Thomas taken away some looks and some double teams from him, but he's going to be a monster. I'm expecting over 1,300 yards from him easily. Chris Olave, Offensive Player of the Year.
Again, same thing with me. I took Chris Olave again for both of these things. And the reason that I kind of went with them is because if you also look at the corners in the division and stuff like that, like a lot of these secondaries aren't that great. Like most of the Falcons, not a great secondary. AJ Terrell, great corner. Like J.C. Horn, great corner. But other than that, like the rest of the division, like these DBs and safeties and everything, they're like mid, right? So, and you're playing 6 games against those guys every year. So I think you'll
get your numbers.
And again, with a better quarterback player, you can jump from 1,100 yards or 1,000 yards, wherever it was, like 15, maybe 1,600 yards, which would be insane.
Oh yeah. All right. Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going to go with another one of your boys, Brian Burns. I think Brian Burns is probably a dark horse to be Defensive Player of the Year just in general for the league. Again, if things go right for the Panthers, if Evero really turns this defense into what it can be, Brian Burns will be the focal point of that. I am fully expecting double-digit sacks from him. I think he can push into the 15, 16 sack range, no problem. Brian Burns, NFC South Defensive Player of the Year.
Same here. Brian Burns decided not to hold out like Nick Bosa did, and I think part of the reason why is because he's super confident going into this season. Like, because I think had he gotten his extension prior to this season, the numbers wouldn't look anywhere near Nick Bosa's extension would look like, right? So he's looking at that and he's
100%.
like, you know what? Watch what I do this season and come back to me next year. And I promise you, the numbers that you throw at me are going to have to be a whole lot higher. So I believe in Brian Burns. I think he's going to have also, he's already a really good player right now, but I believe he'll also have a breakout year and be borderline NFL defensive player of the year caliber type player.
100%, 100%. And to finish off, we'll go with the MVP. So my MVP could have been the offensive rookie of the year, could have been the offensive player of the year, but I wanted some variation. I'm going with Bijan Robinson, the rookie out of Texas. I'm expecting massive things. I'm expecting this Falcons run game to be absolutely incredible. I think they're going to be able to do whatever the hell they want, really, with Bijan, whether that be getting his touches in the backfield, whether he's split out wide. I mean, I know we're seeing these training camp clips of him cooking linebackers with double moves, but don't get fooled. He actually is a good receiver. He can run routes. He doesn't just run double moves 1v1 in man coverage. I think Bijan Robinson is going to be absolutely incredible. Probably shouldn't be saying this to you, but if I have first overall pick in fantasy, he's my 1-1 pick. I don't really care. I just want Bijan on my team this year. I think he's going to be absolutely incredible. 1,500 yard season, 2,000 yard, all-purpose yard guy. Bijan Robinson, division MVP.
It's definitely a great pick. I mean, fantasy. I mean, I'd probably take him number 1 overall in fantasy too. We'd have to figure out that order soon enough. But yeah, I went in a more predictable way here is Bryce Young. So not only do I think he's going to be like the rookie of the year for the division, but I think he has the chance to be the best quarterback in the division this season, which is not a very like high bar, right? Like if it's between him and Desmond Ridder and Baker Mayfield and Derek Carr, that's not really saying much. He can be the best quarterback in the division and still be like a bottom half quarterback in the league overall. But yeah, yes. So I think all that he needs to do in order to do this is just be a distributor, not turn the ball over, get to maybe 3,800 yards, maybe 20, 25 touchdowns would be great. But yeah, I think he has the chance already as a rookie to be the best quarterback and maybe even potentially the best overall player in the entire division.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. Bryce Young, I mean, it's just kind of quarterbacks win the MVP awards usually. The other quarterbacks in this division absolutely fucking stink. So easy to pick Bryce Young there. Finish it off with the division winner. I already know that you're going to pick the Panthers, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as expected, no. I, however, am going to pick the Atlanta Falcons, mainly just because I'm intrigued on what they're going to do. I don't know how they're going to be playing football. It's not going to be something that we normally see where even Desmond Ridder being kind of that, hopefully he's a game manager for them. They're going to be running the ball, and they're going to be running the ball a shit ton. I feel like Desmond Ridder is going to get like 20 passing attempts a game, and they're going to have I think they're going to have more rushing yard or rushing attempts than passing attempts pretty consistently in every game, which doesn't happen in the NFL very often. But I think the Falcons are going to run all over people. They're going to play good defense, and it should be a fun division.
Yeah, the key to the Falcons winning the division is that defense. If their defense is as bad as it was last year, then they stand no chance. But if they make improvements and even just be like a mid-tier defense, running the ball as much as they do is going to be a godsend for the defense, give them tons of rest, so they'll perform expectation. Like they'll be much better than the defense. and then keep the other team's offense off the field. So they can definitely make some noise and win the division, everything like that. However, I just think that the Panthers having, fingers crossed, a legitimate quarterback, a legitimate passing game for the first time in a long time, might be just enough, especially with that great defense that they have there.
A good passing game fixes almost everything. That'll do it for the division breakdowns. Moub, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and doing this. Had some great ball discussions. Any notes, any jabs you want to take on any other teams we haven't talked about this episode?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that this is completely unrelated, but the Patriots are not going to win 7 games. They're going to probably be like 6-11. Mac Jones is going to be on a first-class flight to Beijing, maybe Shanghai. He's going to have to get accustomed to that, to the environment over there, because that's where he's going to be spending his time for the next couple of years. And yeah, the Chargers stink, and they're chokes.
There we go. Ni hao, Mac Jones. Ni hao, Brandon Staley. Have fun playing for the Shanghai Sharks. That'll do this episode of Zero Podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. If you've liked it, please like, share, retweet, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And until next time, peace.